Okay, so I know you read this title and were like, yeah, no crap, Sherlock. Who the heck even thinks this? And I'd like to elaborate. So the title being SMT is not Pokemon is not referring to people calling it a Pokemon clone, which funnily enough does happen despite the fact that the Megami Tensei franchise is older than Pokemon, but instead this is a statement referring to the idea that SMT is the logical next step for someone who is no longer wanting to play Pokemon games and instead wants to move on to a new franchise that will capture the essence of what Pokemon aims to do. Now, let's all be honest, the Pokemon franchise does have its special attributes in its own right, and fully capturing the setting, the memorable monster designs, and the overall feel of the games is no easy task, especially when nostalgia plays a role into a lot of this. This isn't to say that SMT is bad, or SMT isn't good enough to meet certain Pokemon criteria, but instead that it's different. So there are two main reasons that I even thought to make this video, the first being the sentiment I've seen a lot of people have, which is basically that they're not happy about Pokemon BDSP, and they're saying they're going to get SMT5 instead. And the second being the idea that SMT5 is a direct competitor to Pokemon. And this isn't even being said from a financial perspective, but rather because the games are both monster taming JRPGs. Anyway, with all that said, let's talk. Okay, so how this video is going to go down is I'm going to briefly explain why these games are different and why monster taming games aren't always direct competitors. Firstly, the SMT franchise plays a lot more like your typical party-based JRPG, with every enemy essentially being recruitable. I've even seen some people try to argue that it's not a monster taming game because of semantics behind how capturing and battling works, but literally you can recruit any demon you battle and subsequently have them fight for you. This isn't like Final Fantasy where just some characters happen to join you. This is all the enemies in the game which are able to be essentially captured. Anyways, these games are much more difficult than your typical Pokemon game, and they're far more strategic and focus a lot more on buffs and debuffs rather than simple stalls and sweeps. Combat is 4-on-4, so it makes sense that these games would be more complex in their design. Pokemon does what it does really great in my opinion. I actually really like one-on-one battles with abilities and 4 moves, and ultimately a quite simplistic but also fun competitive scene with a low bar to entry and a decently high skill cap. SMT is also far more story driven, with the plot propelling you to certain locations and having far more emphasis on the characters involved in the plot in this post-apocalyptic world, whereas Pokemon is more so a scavenger hunt of sorts in a modern, mostly laid-back world where the hero needs to stop the bad guys from doing what they're doing. The differences keep piling on, but I think you guys sort of get where I'm going with this. Pokemon is not SMT, and SMT is not Pokemon. If you're planning to buy SMT as a Pokemon replacement, you should know these basic differences up front. In my opinion, SMT does not satisfy that Pokemon itch, but again, that's not because it's bad, it's just because it's very different. It's not meant to be a Pokemon-like game. SMT3, for example, is actually a lot of fun and sort of feels like a Dark Souls / Twilight Princess type of game in terms of theme, and honestly, these games scratch an itch that I didn't even know I had. But that itch is not the Pokemon one. SMT doesn't have you going on a sort of fun, lighthearted adventure to become the very best. Now, you may buy SMT5 and absolutely love it, and maybe for you this is what you want Pokemon to be, but I think for many, they may not feel that SMT does that for them. So to reiterate, if you want to play a tough, dark, story-driven JRPG with more complexity than Pokemon and a completely different tone, definitely check it out, but don't expect it to necessarily be Pokemon-like enough to replace it. Now, this all goes into the next part of this video, which is essentially this idea that all monster taming games are direct competitors. They're not. Monster taming as a genre or a category is far more vast than some realize, and monster taming games oftentimes can be broken into even smaller categories, which more accurately describes them. For example, Patch Quest is a game where you can literally tame any enemy and utilize their abilities. This is a monster taming game by definition that functions as a bullet hell roguelike, not exactly competitors to, let's say, Pokemon. Even games of the same genre and subgenre aren't always directly comparable, as I just showed with SMT5 and Pokemon. So there's also that. All I really want to say, I guess, is that not all monster taming games are similar to Pokemon, nor can they always function as Pokemon replacements or Pokemon supplements. If you want to give SMT or any other monster taming game a swing, definitely do so, but don't always expect them to be similar enough to Pokemon or satisfy your specific itch, if that itch is a Pokemon one. I'm actually planning on putting out a video tomorrow going over some games that I think are similar enough to Pokemon and would be perfect introductory games to the monster taming genre, so definitely stay tuned for that, and don't forget to subscribe so you get notified for when that video does come out. For more monster taming content, you can also check out my Twitter and Discord, which will be linked below. And just wanted to say special thanks to the channel's patrons, especially our mythical tier backers, StealCase and Jim Hamilton. With that, we'll see you guys next time. Peace.